You usually can't tell when you visit a Drupal-built site. It looks the same as any other site on the web. When you're logged in as the administrator, though, lots of controls pop up that require a little bit of explanation. This video takes you quickly through them, so you won't have any surprises when you start clicking around. I already have Drupal up and running, and I'm seeing it as you will after watching the section about installing Drupal, except that I'm not logged in as the administrator. So I'll do that now. Throughout this course, when I'm using the exercise files, I use the same username and password, admin and Drupal. Now I see the site as you would see it as the main administrator, the super user. I'm also looking at this site in a different browser, not logged in, and I'll come back to this in just a few minutes to show you some of the differences. One thing you'll notice that's different is there's this additional block over here, which doesn't show up when you're not logged in, and in fact there's one here that tells people to log in, which doesn't show up when you are logged in. Drupal displays these blocks and various content conditionally. It pays attention to what kind of user is looking at the site. In this case, I'm an administrative user, and in the other one I'm what's called an anonymous user. That is someone who hasn't logged in yet. Another difference is when I bring my cursor down over these blocks, I get this little widget here. This is an administrative tool called the contextual menu, and it varies depending on what you're pointing at. When I click here, I see that I have three options. I can edit the menu that this block contains, I can configure the block itself, and again, it depends very much on what the block is. Up here I only have one option to configure the block. None of those show up when you're not logged in because you don't have access to those controls. At the top of the screen, we see two bars which have administrative controls. The one in black is called the toolbar, and it stays the same no matter what you do to your site. The one below it, the shortcut bar, is customizable, and you'll learn more about those two in the videos on using the toolbar and using the shortcut bar. When you decide you want to do an administrative task in Drupal, you'll almost always start by clicking something up here in the toolbar, or possibly by clicking on one of these little widgets. In either case, a layer pops up called the administrative overlay. I'll show that by clicking here in Appearance. You see how we see the original window behind this one on top. You perform your administrative functions, and then when you're done, you either click a button at the bottom that says something like Save Configuration, or if you decide you want to leave it, you just click this little X and you go back to where you were. Now, we won't go into all of the different things that are contained up here in the toolbar. There are quite a few, and we're saving that for the video on touring administrative controls. Some of them, such as the Content button and the Appearance button, immediately take you to some place where you can make a change. Here, for example, I could change the look of the site by clicking Set Default. Some take you to a list of options, such as when I click Structure, and then I would further click one of these, and then I could perform some actions. Finally, we have the dashboard, which is a highly configurable way for you to interact with your site as an administrator. And we'll talk about that more in a video about the dashboard. So that takes care of controls for configuring Drupal. But that's only one part of running a website. Once the site is the way you want it, it's time to add your content. That's easy enough to do. Just go up to the shortcut bar here and click Add Content. Once you're there, you choose which content type you want to add and click its link. Now this screen is one you'll find yourself looking at an awful lot once your site is up and running. You'll learn more about adding content in the sections about building a Drupal site, controlling content, and several others. It's a big subject, so there's a lot of videos on it. Finally, we come to users. Drupal, as I've mentioned before, is a multi-user system. You can control what people can and can't do on your site through a system of roles and permissions. You'll learn more about that in the section Managing Users, but briefly you get there by going to People, which shows you a list of people, and then you could perform certain actions on them, and then Permissions and Roles once you're in that Permissions tab. From an individual user's point of view, though, the important thing is that everybody who logs in gets a user account and a profile that goes with it. We can see that by clicking up here where it says Hello Admin, or if we were an ordinary user, we'd see this My Account up here in the corner. From there, we can take a look at information about the user, or go in and edit it. I want to remind you that nearly everything you've seen in this video is from the administrator's point of view. But by Drupal's default settings, the content of your site is available to all visitors, even if they don't log in. Much of this course deals with how you can control exactly what's seen, and how, and by whom. Drupal gives you an astonishing level of control over those things, and accessing these controls is easy once you're used to the Drupal interface.